Kathy Basel.
Yep.
Basel.
Basel, yep. Yeah. So my company's called the Vitality Code, and I started out as a holistic wellness coach, but my passion is really about helping to get to the underlying, just like you, getting down to those underlying seeds of dis-ease. And so I do energy work, and I do a lot of mindset aspect, and kind of more like health coaching. I work with women that are in their 50s that are kind of at that point where they're kind of feeling, like time for a new chapter. They don't know what that looks like. They're feeling low on energy because they haven't been taking care of themselves. They're taking care of everybody else, right? And we're so good at that as women. So I give them permission. We kind of work together to create a compelling vision for what they want next in their life, because we got a lot of life left. So let's live it fully, right?
And you're a Denver, Colorado dot.
I am. Yep.
Polka dot powerhouse is, people don't know what a dot is. Women's community group. I almost want to say networking, and it is kind of that, but they don't call it that. It's community, women supporting each other, and
so they're all about connection. And isn't that a perfect word for right now? And isn't the pandemic, I think, has really helped us to see the importance of connection. And I think it's something that I created a vitality wheel. It's got 9 different aspects that go into whole person wellness, and connection is absolutely one of those keys. And this is really putting it at the forefront with us with the pandemic of not being able to, a lot of people not even being able to be with their families and loved ones, but the deep need that we have as humans for connection. It's a core need. It truly is.
And what did you call your wheel?
It's a vitality wheel. I created. So my company is the Vitality Code, and we talk in terms of health, but a lot in the medical world, that just means that you've got an absence of disease. So my passion is helping people come fully alive. So that's when they're passionate about their lives, when they're engaged in what it is they're truly doing. I'm just laughing because in my mind, I think of the bad dates we've been on Match, when you go and somebody says, they love camping and hiking and all these things. And you go and you're like, when's the last time you did that? It's like, well, 3 years ago. It's like, but you got the picture on your profile. Take that off. So,
right. And ideally they're doing something.
Yeah, we want the juicy profiles of what our life's all about.
Yeah. What is your website? Is it vitalitycode.com?
With the word the Vitality Code. Yep, thevitalitycode.com.
One of my websites is theqigonglady.com. I actually chose it because mine crashed and my website, and I couldn't get a hold of the dot who helped me make my website. And finally, she came back, and so I got my sitwellness.com back. But so I have 2 websites now. One that I made in 4 hours and one that she made over 4 months. So the Vitality Code, and you're in Denver. And so what kind of energy medicine are you doing? One that you created, or you were taught energy medicine, or what?
How it is. I think we collect tools over the years. So the first energy work that I got into was called Access Consciousness. And in addition to doing, there's a whole line of body work that I got deep into with Access, but there's a whole mindset that goes along with that. A lot of it is about just the basics of it's actually our perception that creates our reality. So it kind of puts us in the driver's seat of our lives. So that's the foundational philosophy, if you will, that I use in my coursework. But then
I ask you to take a deep breath for 1 second while my doorbell just rang?
Oh, sure.
Or sing a song, or what, something else?
La, 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 la.
Okay, thank you. Bye. That was Terry Moon, one of our Petaluma dots. Terry Moon, TERRI Moon.com. She is hosting this World Peace and the Kitchen Sink every Tuesday. Well, hosting, she's one of the 5-minute speakers. And she, I usually have 2 5-minute speakers, and then for half an hour, as many as we can fit of the 30-second. We've never had too many people that we can't have everybody do the 30-second one. And I will hopefully continue after February, just maybe Wednesdays and Thursdays having the kitchen sink then. And right now, technically, you and I are going to go on to the kitchen sink on the YouTube, which is the Qigong lady with Dr. Amba. So I'm grateful that you're allowing me to record our dot connect right now as I get to know you better. So you said first energy work experience was through Access Consciousness, which was body work and...
So body work, but to me, it's some of the simple tools of using questions to open up different possibilities in your life. It's really about unlocking ourselves because there's so much domestication that happens in our world about what normal has to look like. And, talk about connection. We've got this deep need for connection. And so along our life journey, we've cut off pieces and bits of ourselves in order to fit into the way, society expects us to.
Or some people.
Yeah.
Just to say not everybody has that, because I find that sometimes people will say, everybody this, everybody that, and it can kind of be, as my teacher would say, you can say two things, a blessing or a curse. And if you say everybody or we all, blah, 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 it's kind of sending the vibration of a negative thing. So I invite, if you don't mind me saying,
absolutely,
some people have a tendency, or a lot of people have blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And I mean, societies, generally women are looking to, we're so good at wanting to take care of other people. A lot of times we show up the way they think, or we think they require us to, rather than just straight on what works for me. So there's a whole lot of empowerment that just happens from that core piece. But then I did some studies with Tony Robbins, because I want people to have lasting transformation. And I think that he's one of the best in the world about that.
I love him so much. I just wish that he could dial his voice down 1,000.
You know what? I think it's starting to happen now that he's having he's had
the sore throats all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's starting to dial down. So
that's good. Because sometimes I'll go, I love what you're saying, but energetically I can't take the But some people, that's probably what I have a workshop on judgment coming up. And I always say what bothers us about other people, it's because we don't like something about ourselves. We see in that. And I definitely do, like when I'm in this too, I like go back and listen sometimes. I'm like, my voice is really loud. I have to, because, and people who are soft, I'll turn up the volume to hear them. But I listen more when people are softer. So I'm trying to practice that. So you said Tony Robbins, some studies, so you did like a training or?
So he's got a certification called Core 100. It's to become, they teach you some of the strategic interventions. And so essentially it's going in and breaking some of those pattern interrupts, he calls them. And you go in and it's all that self-identity stuff. And you hit the word right on the head with the word judgment. How many different ways are we judging ourselves every single day? And how much freedom there is on the other side of that when you get to just what else is possible is a simple question to ask.
And even know that you're doing it. Some people subconscious is all those habitual things that are just running. And it's often a habit to just notice someone and boom, and judgment, or do something yourself and boom, a judgment. And the whole workshop that I have coming up, it's actually the 6th of March, is about shifting that into fascination. Like, oh, isn't that fascinating? And with Chinese medicine, we say kidneys have a little bit to do with fear and loneliness, and liver has to do a little bit with anger, frustration, impatience. But the opposite of that, what you're born with in the kidneys is self-confidence, inner strength, and wisdom. In the liver, it's compassion, kindness, and patience. And we're in kidney winter, going into the season of liver, which is spring. So this transition is one of the reasons I'm doing this workshop. And noticing what we're feeling and categorizing it within the organ systems of Chinese medicine, and then honoring it, because a lot of people take their emotions that are uncomfortable and are like, put it in a drawer, put it over there, stuff that emotion, rather than honor it and express it in a healthy way, and then use it as fertilizer. That's what I teach, use that as a fertilizer to grow and evolve and recharge the virtues we were born with, because it's not like we're adding something that doesn't exist. We're recharging, remembering who we really are when we came in.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yeah, you and I are absolutely soul sisters right there. And it's interesting. So you asked about modalities. So the next one that I discovered when I was doing some studies with Tony, because I still found it kind of like an intellectual approach. And the next one that I got into is called the emotion code. And
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
would
that much,
really,
so tell me.
it would completely jive with you because essentially I'm looking for my little chart here. Just as you said about how different emotions run into the different organs. And so he's got a chart of emotions, and you can simply, with using kinesiology and muscle testing, identify what is the trapped emotion here. So, say somebody's having a hard time avoiding chocolate or
sorry, just going to ask, who's he? You said
Oh,
he,
I'm sorry.
the emotion code.
Dr. Bradley Nelson.
Okay.
Yeah, and he wrote a book. It's called The Emotion Code, and you can absolutely. What I love about this technique is it's something simple that everybody can learn to do for themselves. If they can just learn the muscle testing, it's pretty phenomenal how much release you can do. And I think that's what's happening right now. There's higher consciousness being called in, and we're all being called to kind of clean up the old stores and let the angers, the frustrations, the guilt, shame, blame, all that stuff.
We are just, since the solstice of, the 21st of December, or that area, the age of Aquarius, and the, it's been the 5D, the fifth dimension shift for those that are able. And I always say I'm 1 foot in and 1 foot. Watch me go back. So yes, a lot of shifting going on, and people are, I think because of COVID, we slowed down a bit and we're able to, I think in many ways, COVID is such a blessing because people were able to slow down. It's healing the planet with less emissions. It's, a lot of positive things are coming. I definitely honor the people who passed away and people who lost loved ones. And yet it's been wonderful to slow down. And I think the blessing is people got to go, and rethink some things that weren't working and noticing some things that are working. Like for me, and I'm sure for you, the remote work has increased. And I'll let you keep going because I think you're going to end up where we.
I wanted to highlight something that you said that I really think is so important for people to understand is that it gets turned into fertilizer. So I think as women, it's easy for us to hold on to, even when we become aware of, it's time for me to let this go. We're afraid to let it go because we don't want to hurt somebody else. And it's like, no. Mother Earth is asking for contribution of energy right now. And it's not in judgment. So it doesn't care if you're giving out good or bad. We're the ones who make it good or bad.
It's fertilizer. It's recycling.
Yeah, I mean, it takes cow poop and makes, new
fertilizer.
grow. Yeah,
and I totally agree. And one thing that you mentioned too is like, as women, we talk about cancer and how breast cancer has a relationship with the liver because the liver's boundaries crossed. And women in the United States anyway, they don't want to say, no, that's not okay, or stand really strong in their boundaries. Often some women, because they think they're going to be called a BICTH because they're being strong and powerful. When in truth, if a man did, it'd be no biggie. But women, it will, we sometimes will allow things to cross the boundaries and we didn't hold up and say no. So we didn't honor the integrity, which is part of the virtues from the lungs. And then this what we call insubstantial phlegm will rise up and get cooked up to the breasts, and we end up having breast cancer. And I mean, my teacher and in the studies I did with breast cancer, there were a lot of women that had sexual abuse that had put it in a drawer and put it and just didn't deal with it. And at the same time, the more and more that we hear about people who had sexual abuse, it's very common. A lot of people don't talk about it, yet it is one of the things that it's more common than we thought. And even men, and it's kind of sad, but then talk about fertilizer. My motto for years, and I'm kind of tweaking my motto and changing more mottos, but my motto for years has been every challenge is a gift to grow and evolve. And so when the divine gives us some, because I'm also Christian, Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu, and the Christianity part of me, and when my mom passed, at her funeral, I had my favorite Bible verse, which is Romans 8:28, that says, all things work together for good to those who love God. And you can transcribe it to,
just give me shivers.
for good if you're doing light work, if you're, and it's sometimes a challenge, when you're like, I just got a diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, or I just got divorced because my husband cheated on me, or I just, whatever happened that was a shitload of shit, pardon my French.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to go, thank you for that gift, and I had the conversation with this one businesswoman who helps people. She's one of these people that was telling me, you need to raise your prices a lot. And I was like, I still want to be accessible to everybody. But she was telling me, how can you say systematic racism is a gift to grow and evolve? And she's like, have you ever experienced it? And I'm like, I may kind of act very white, but I'm Bolivian. My father experienced a lot of, in the Midwest, a lot of racism. And I have been able to let stuff bounce off like a duck, but the water off a duck, it's all right. and my friends who are African American and have experienced really intense crapola, I still think it's about, growing and evolving. It's about forgiveness. It's about understanding somebody that's racist is coming from a fear-based center because they've had maybe trauma, maybe they had parents that beat the crap out of them and said, no, you're not going to go talk to somebody who, is a little different, whatever. And I mean, not to make excuses for them, but I think when we have compassion for abusers and do the forgiveness work, it comes, and in forgiveness, the work that I do is never about the person getting the forgiveness. It's about us letting go. It's for us to forgive and get it out of our physical tissues.
Yeah.
So,
and I love the ho'oponopono because it's like, forgive the other person, forgive how you two came together, and forgive yourself. But just as you said, when you get that gift of, there's nothing that God hasn't dished out to us that wasn't made to help us increase our level of awareness so that we could grow in knowing who we are.
Totally.
We came here to be, and to bring those gifts out in a more profound way.
And you just hit on another point. Ho'oponopono is really good for judgment. So if you're in the bus and you see somebody that's mistreating their partner or whatever, or you see anybody, that's a quick, when we judge, a quick thing, ho'oponopono, because we're judging, and there's a little lesson there, and the ho'oponopono of ancestral stuff too, because we judge ourselves.
It's cool because the emotion code, we can go back to the point of inception, whether that was, it could be in vitro, it could happen when you're 5 or 6 or 20, but it can also do generational. And there is so much stuff coming up right now, which is awesome because consciousness is quickening. So we have this ability to go in and heal these old karmic wounds of, that we thought we're just entrapped. That's like, no, we can wipe that slate clean. So
we have 3 karmas. We have the physical karma of now. We have like our country's karma. Yeah. We have the ancestral karma. I mean, I just this weekend was working on, at the end of my workshop, I always do 1 hour is the remote healing for the group. And ancestors show up, and sometimes I have an idea completely who they are, and somebody showed up that I didn't know was if they were like for me or for 1 or 2 of the different people, because sometimes I don't know, and I can't ask too many questions in case it traumatizes somebody else, so I have to be very careful about that. And it was very much this person was apologizing. So it got me to the feeling that there was maybe some healing there for the person, yet there was also a sense, and so I have a selenite wand, and I always cut cords, and I'm rarely ever denied ability to cut cords, and it's not me, it's divine working through me, but I get guided to do that. And when I was guided to start to do it for some people, I was very much told not to for someone. And it turned out that one of the people was reading It's Not Your Money, the Tasha Silver book, awesome book if you don't know it. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm working on chapter 8, which is about cutting cords, and I'm not quite there yet. And I was like, oh, that's what it was. It was really funny because, every time I bring something up like that, they say, oh, the client says, oh, da, 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 da. Anyway, sorry, I had 2 cups of coffee today, so I'm like.
No, we've just got so much in common, and there's a whole amazing world. And so we connected because I've got my Healy too, is something else, because it's all, everything is frequency. And so the Healy is pretty darn amazing in that it's almost like the biofeedback machines, big old hunkamama things that practitioners would have, but because of the advent of smartphones and ability to save large amounts of information in the cloud, they're able to create a little machine that's a personalized version of a biofeedback machine that you can have for yourself and do sessions all day long. Well, not all day long, but a couple times a day, every day.
Yeah. So I was just going to say about the emotional code. You did like training with them too. And did they have certification as well? Or what do they do?
So there's two levels. There's the emotion code, and then there's also the body code. And you would love the body code because it gets deep into, there's basically 6 different types of interferences in the chi flow, right? And so it can be emotions, oftentimes are about 80% of it, but then there's other times when it might be toxins or environmental. It might be, there's 6 different categories, and you can go in and basically just as you do, and it's pretty profound work.
Wow. I always say that, like, if you do get cancer because of toxic environment stuff, it's because your emotions and stuff are out of balance and you're open to getting it, when the next person right next to you didn't get it because they weren't open.
Yes, exactly. And so you can kind of go in and kind of super sleuth how much of this is the emotion, how much of this is the environmental. And like you said, you've made yourself susceptible to it. So what can we do to safeguard ourselves?
Not to blame anybody.
Yeah.
Because they're getting something. So you went from emotion code into the biofeedback, or was there something in between?
No, I primarily, well, now I created my own program. So I really do kind of like life coaching and integrate all of those, because I believe you can, like in Access, we were doing clearing all the time, but until you've got that clear and compelling vision, that light vision that lights you up from the inside. And we all have that person. When you think of somebody vibrantly alive, it's because they're plugged into their passion. They're giving their gifts. They're well connected with their community. They're contributing in ways that's meaningful to them. And that's what I want for people. Yeah.
Or their babies under 3 years old or under 7.
So I want to like you said, kind of recalibrate us back to the joy level that we had when we were 3. Like, what if we were, just unbounded in our joy? Like, what if there's like this big cap that's been put on the amount of joy that we're allowed to have in this reality? And I just want to blow that off the charts. And women in their 50s, man, this is what the world needs right now, is women who come fully alive. We've got the gifts, we've got the wisdom is what it is.
And they also need 25-year-old partners who have a libido that is...
I'm good with that. I like you.
I joke because my husband's 43. He's like 10 years younger than me. And he's like, you need somebody that's in their 20s. I'm not 30. I always talk about my husband. I'm going to get it someday when he sees these. So what I wanted to ask you was, so when I heard you in the Denver Polka Dot meeting, and you said, you do remote healing. And then I asked you, what kind, and you had said you do it, I think, through the Healy. And I purchased a Healy from Lori, blanking on her last name, Gertsensen. She is a chiropractor in Berkeley. And that's what drew me in, because it gives you data. Right.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it, because like you said, it appeals to those people who need that side of it. I actually prefer, well, I don't know. It's just part of the toolbox. So it just depends. You match it with the people who need it. And I'm sorry.
How do you get data? That's what I was curious.
Oh, because when you do the scans with the resonance, it'll give you the, like percentages of what the priorities are. So you can do a scan and it'll give you, so it'll come up with program groups that are of the highest priority. And I'm sorry, I should have told you that I need to go at 3:20 your time. So I've got 3 minutes left. I'm sorry.
You've got like 3 minutes left?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the chart, so we got this is the Healy chart, and there's like, how many is this? There's like 11 different groups of programs, and it's so perfectly aligned with all that you do.
After she like explained everything and I had it and I bought it, I was like, all these things I can do with medical qigong. So are you getting the people that your clients to buy the Healy and then they do it on their own after you prescribe it?
Yes. And
Okay,
so
because that's different.
I enjoy empowering people. So I want to put this in their hands because one little unit can service their entire family. So
Yeah.
even if they just got the base unit, the $500 unit, and they're going to be switching it up a little bit. So now it's going to require a subscription. So it's going to be a monthly, but even so, even $50 or whatever they come up with for the price on that, it's the health assurance plan because it's going to help you to detox. It's going to help you relax and get rid of the stress. It's going to help you
I just
have
have
more
a
energy.
quick question. So like I give people prescription meditations and stuff to do it, and then they just do it. Although people are lazy, they want to take a pill. They want to they like the Healy because they can just plug it in and like they don't have to do any work, really, other than be still. But with the Healy, are they, because that you blew my mind when you said they're going to start to have a monthly subscription. So when I got my Healy for $1,500 now, if I want to use it, they're going to make me pay a little because I hardly use it yet.
No. You'll be grandfathered in.
Okay. But
The
people in the
people
future.
who are, yeah, and that makes sense from a business standpoint.
So people want to get it now before they start doing that.
Yeah, and they're running a special. I think it lasts another week or two.
Okay, I have to call Lori because
Yeah.
I've been in since December or something, and I have barely used it because after I used it, I was like, okay, well, this meditation does that.
Yeah. And so just like you said, people don't understand to the depth that you and I do because we've been on this journey for a while. So get this in their hands. They can go and do it and then just check in every 6 weeks or so, how's it going, and help them. And, they might just have the base unit. It sounds like you've got the
I get the
resonance.
resonance, yeah.
Yeah, you do the scan, you tell them, okay, here's your priorities, like see in another 6 weeks. So it's pretty phenomenal. And I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I've got to hop off because my call's
Okay,
right now.
thank you.
But this has been delightful.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, because I want to hear more about you. Qigong is fascinating to me, and I know there's Qigong hospitals, and
yeah,
I want to hear all about it.
Okay, we'll have to have another appointment because this could be a regular thing. I think we can share a lot of stuff and share it with the world. So, okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.